Hello and welcome to BritCast. I'm Katie and I'm from the UK. In this series of podcasts, I'm going to introduce you to all things British. British accent, British words and phrases, and British culture. This is the advanced podcast. This means that I'll be speaking at a fairly normal pace and using words and phrases that I actually use in my everyday English. If you find this a little bit tricky, you can always go and download the transcript and read as you listen. Today we'll talk about how to address someone in different situations. First, we're going to talk about how to get someone's attention when you don't know their name. This is difficult in English because we don't have many choices. You can just say sir for a man or madam for a woman, but this is very formal. If you're in a restaurant, an expensive restaurant, or a 5-star hotel, the people working there might call you sir or madam. But in most situations this is not suitable, because when we are too formal with people, they may feel we are not being friendly. On the other end of the scale, if you're in the north of England, you might hear people refer to you as love or pet or ducky. Don't be surprised or offended. These are just local dialect words and are not meant to be disrespectful. However, you shouldn't use them because they are only acceptable if used by someone from that area. So, what do we do if we're in the street and we want to tell someone that they dropped something, for example? Well, we don't have a word to call them. We just say, sorry, or excuse me. It may sound strange that we say sorry, even though we didn't do anything wrong. But as you will learn in this series, British people love the word sorry. Now we'll talk about how to talk to someone if you do know their name. In English, when we're being polite, we call people Mr. or Mrs. or Miss. Mr. is for a man, Mrs. is for a woman who is married, and Miss is for a woman who is not married. If we don't know if the woman is married or not, we should call her Ms. This is important because some women may get offended or upset if you get their marital status wrong. After Mr. or Miss, etc., we then use the person's family name, not their first name. So, for example, my name is Katie Jackson. If you met me for the first time in a formal place, for example in an interview, you should call me Ms. Jackson or Miss Jackson, not Miss Katie. I might tell you, please call me Katie. This means that you can now use my first name instead of calling me Miss Jackson. In the UK, most people will tell you this from the first time you meet them. But to be on the safe side, it's best to use the more formal form of address until the other person invites you to use their first name. Actually, this is kind of awkward, even for us Brits. So we tend to avoid using people's names in conversation, so we don't have to decide whether to use their first or last name. When you use someone's first name when talking to them, it's called being on first name terms. So, for example, I could say, my office is very friendly. I'm on first name terms with everyone, even my boss. British etiquette is a tricky thing. My advice is always be as polite as you can and hope for the best. If you liked this podcast, please share it with your friends, and if you want to know more about how to practice your English, check out English Cafe Alex on Facebook.